Behold, my top 12 books, or some of them, of 2022. Yes, guys, I am still alive. I have been so goddamn busy that I have not had the discretionary time to make videos for y'all. But because this is an annual tradition of sorts on this channel, I do want to talk about the best books that I read during this particular calendar year. Especially because the books themselves are the main focus of what's been consuming most of my time recently. Not reading them, but actually, I do want to make videos about this project that I've been working on heavily down the line. It's still way too soon to celebrate or to make any jumps for joy, but we'll get there when we'll get there. But for now, let's just talk about the books. Number 12, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This is a perfect spot to jump into sci-fi. It's more comedy than sci-fi, actually. The writing's hilarious. I belted out laughing a couple of times. I might just read the other books. Number 11 is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. If you are going to read at least one self-help book, have it be this one. If you're more inclined to something a little bit more of a modern classic. Something that's more modern trendy would be Atomic Habits. But if you're looking for a modern classic, this is the one to go. I finally got the chance to read it. I like what I had to say. Its habits are applicable to many professions, many aspirations. So you find the way on how to best apply these 7 habits for whatever it is that you're working on. Number 10 was Lent to Me. It is Valley-esque by Fernando Flores, a local author from Reynosa, Mexico. Valley-esque, I wouldn't call it magical realism. It's a little more like surrealism that takes place here in South Texas. It's such a strange book, but I loved how the author used some surreal imagery alongside local culture. We're talking about flying javelinas, we're talking about some revolution that had to do with a science fair in an elementary school, things along those lines. Very creative and imaginative book, Valley-esque. Number 9 is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I actually got this book in Square Books in Oxford, Mississippi. Debatably the best bookstore in the Deep South. Now, I got this book because I asked the guy who was there, the manager, what is one book that if I were to not read in my life, I would have lived a wasted life? Without even thinking about it, he takes me over to the classic novels shelf and plucks this one out. To the Lighthouse, okay, the writing is very unusual compared to other novels of the time because Woolf uses a lot of what's called a stream of consciousness, where she just writes the thoughts of people's minds without necessarily going into dialogue. It's an unusual form of writing. I've never seen anything like it. It all revolves around a canceled trip to a lighthouse. I don't think I would read it again, but it is worth reading just for you to get a different take on literature. Number 8 is Blue Ocean Strategy by W. Chan Kim and Renee Mauborgne. I think that's how you pronounce it. Now, Blue Ocean Strategy is a phenomenal business book that focuses on the idea that we should not focus on our competitors. We should focus on our audience, our market, and creating a new market to render the competition irrelevant. Number 7, this guy might actually be one of my top 5 favorite authors. The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. Either you love him or you hate him, but I really like how he thinks. I may not necessarily agree in how he says certain things, but I certainly agree with the sentiment behind him. Now, the Art of Seduction talks about the subconscious games that we play whenever it is that we want to um, try to win over our crush or the person it is that we're interested in. This, however, uses historic examples. It talks about different types of people, different types of styles of seduction. Mine would be the the natural, I say, wherein someone connects with their inner child in order to connect with whoever it is that they might sense a connection with. I probably wouldn't suggest reading this if you're doing it with the intention of getting a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a partner, but maybe if you've been romantically manipulated before, or you just like the idea of romance, conceptually speaking, this book is a fascinating read. Number 6, Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. Now, this guy talks about one of the most important things when it comes to businesses: relationships, networking. What must you do in order to make your point clear? Where must you go? What must you say? How must you think? How must you feel? This guy goes into all of that. I took lots of notes when reading this. Number 5, another orange business book. This is Marketing by Seth Godin. Oh my gosh. If you're going to read one book before you market yourself or your organization or your business, this is the one. Similar to Blue Ocean Strategy, it touches on similar themes where you have to just go for it, forge your own path, trailblaze. But Godin additionally talks about the fact that you have to change a culture, change the narrative of whatever it is that you are advertising or proposing. Number 4 goes to the Hermetica. If you want to dabble into esoterica, this is not a bad place to start. The Hermetica is said to be a collection of ancient teachings from Egypt with a little bit of an ancient Greek flavor. Now, it is said that wherever those writings went in the Eastern Hemisphere, innovation happened, magic happened, hence the Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment, and yeah, there's a whole mythos surrounding the Hermetica and Hermetic teachings. But I will say that I definitely like how Hermeticism treats the concept of what we would call God, as well as that of the immortality of the souls, things that are not visible, that we feel to be true. The Hermetica does a very good job of delving a little bit further into it for our consideration. Number 3 is The Historic Brownsville Town Site by local historian Betty Bay. Okay, now, this is... Only people of Brownsville, Texas will fully understand this book, but essentially it's divided in 2 halves. The first half talks about the history of Brownsville in a nutshell. The second half talks about historic buildings in our downtown with little vignettes dedicated to each. The whole drama of downtown Brownsville is wonderfully captured here. I love how this book is handled. Number 2, I do not have it with me right now. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. The Count is often considered to be one of the best novels to have come from France. If you're not familiar with it, it is the revenge story to end all revenge stories. It kind of makes me want to be wronged by people in order for me to maniacally think of how to get back at them. Before I get to number 1, honorable mentions. I have 3. The first is Spin Selling. This is a remarkable book on sales. The thing is, you would only really read this if we're talking about giant sales that you are thinking of closing. Things like 5 or 6 figure numbers. This is your book. The other honorable mention would be, what's it called? Los Relámpagos de Agosto by Jorge Ibargüengoitia. He wrote this, it's a parody of making fun of all these accounts from the Mexican Revolution, where these people would write some, how they would write about themselves and what they did during that time in Mexican history. Well, this guy wrote a parody about it. The only reason why I have it as an honorable mention and not on the list is because I was missing context. I don't know enough about the Mexican Revolution to fully understand all the references and jokes that he made in his parody. If I did, I probably would have put it within my top 5. And the final honorable mention, I'm embarrassed to say it, but whatever. It's a bestseller. Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I actually read this book on a road trip between Columbus, Ohio and Austin, Texas for research purposes. But you know what? I let myself go. It was a fun, guilty pleasure of a read. That's an emotional roller coaster. Let's get to the number 1 on the list. Reprising himself. Reprising again on this list, Robert Greene. The Daily Laws was the best book that I read in 2022. And here's why. I massively took a radical career change. I could not have done it if I didn't start reading this book. Things look very well right now. I don't want to celebrate. I don't want to take the win. There's still a lot of work that I have to do, even though everyone's saying congratulations, congratulations. No. I have to remain focused on what I have to do. As this book freaking says. In short, The Daily Laws. It's a book that's 366 pages long. You read 1 page for every day of the year. It is a collection of Robert Greene's thoughts, philosophies from all his books compiled into this one. Each month focuses on a specific theme, let's say. January's, for example, would be being honest with yourself and what your purpose on earth is. Then it ends on December, where the theme there is connecting to what he calls the cosmic sublime. You could call it God, you could call it the vastness of the universe, you could call it, however you want to call it. You have to realize your insignificance and use that as fuel in order to live your best life. It sounds counterintuitive, but I like how Robert Greene phrases it. But yes, I'm experiencing a radical change right now. Things are going well, but I credit this book into guiding me with the right mindset to make this change happen. Yes, everyone, those have been my top 12 books of 2022. As the year goes on, I do see myself reading less. It is already 12 days into the year as of recording, and I've barely scratched 10 pages into a book that was lent to me. Right now, I am reading a spiritual book called The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis. It was lent to me by someone whom I shared, my spiritual perspective to, and said, I think you might enjoy this one. Now, C.S. Lewis may be a little bit too conservative of a Christian for my tastes, but, I will consider what he has to say. Sometimes it's good to read something that you may disagree with because you might learn something new or understand the opposing point of view. Yes, everyone, lots to look forward to this 2023. Granted, it's about halfway through across the first month, but there's lots to look forward to with it. And it's just going to go up from here, hopefully, as long as we make it happen. Well, have a good one. Take care, stay curious, and kick ass.